Don't you like how Dragon Ball Super gave us this amazing fight scene right before ending? They pretty much just dropped the mic and walked away. What's really incredible about this character is how he can be so threatening yet so sympathetic. Jiren wasn't born as the cold adversary that he's presented to be. He was made that way due to unspeakable tragedy. So how did that tragedy reform the normal child Jiren once was, and who was responsible for it in the first place? More importantly, what does the future hold for him? Let's dive right in. Here's Jiren from Dragon Ball Super's tragic past. Dragon Ball Super played its main villain pretty close to the chest during the Tournament of Power saga. He was just the powerful, silent guy who everyone was afraid of. Sure, he was the pride of the Pride Troopers, but their ridiculous uniforms made us not really take them too seriously. We didn't know at the time that he would be among the fiercest warriors to ever fight in the Dragon Ball franchise. Mostly, we just knew that he looked like a more handsome version of Kid Buu. Once we finally did get his origin, it was obvious that he was one of the franchise's most tragic villains. To be fair, most of its villains aren't really that sympathetic. Characters like Cell, Majin Buu, and Lord Piccolo are pretty much just depicted as evil for evil's sake. At this point, would any backstory excuse just how evil Frieza is? Say what you want about King Cold, but he did seem to genuinely love his son. You don't reanimate a kid with robot parts unless you really care. Just ask Emperor Palpatine. Jiren sets himself apart by basically being an anime version of a Charles Dickens character. Once upon a time, he was just a ridiculously cute little boy. Seriously, he used to look like a Jim Henson character. We can imagine him having a life throwing rocks by the lake, riding an alien bike with his buds, and probably coining a cute catchphrase. That all changed when his village was destroyed by some mysterious evildoer. Whatever simple life he would have had was dashed forever. Luckily, he was saved by Gichin. The hero taught him how to fight and also that there was true value in friendship. Jiren then spent most of his life battling with Gichin and friends on all sorts of adventures. In many ways, Jiren got to live out his own Dragon Ball style anime. He probably had plucky sidekicks and everything. There's only one big difference between his anime and the one we love. It's really depressing. Instead of always managing to save the day and his friends, Jiren completely fails to do both. The monster that destroys his village does the same to his master and friends. Thus, Jiren lost all hope in teamwork and friendship, which makes his next decision pretty confusing. Right after that, he decides to join the Pride Troopers. Loner bad boys don't typically decide to join superhero teams. You don't see the Punisher trying to saddle up with the Avengers very often. He likely just joined the team to increase his powers and fulfill the wishes of his late master. As a vital part of the team, he flew around Universe 11 fighting bad guys and refusing to pose for overdramatic group stances. He never would have fit in with the Ginyu Force. Strangely enough, he even abided by their code of honor, refusing to take any lives. Legends grew about his power, even into other universes. It was rumored that he was the only mortal who could defeat a god of destruction. Once he started fighting in the Tournament of Power, we got to know what he's really like. Pushed to his absolute edge, he admits that he doesn't actually care about anyone. He views friendship and teamwork as weaknesses and only has value in power for power's sake. It's clear that the tragic events of his childhood have permanently scarred him into a monster. What keeps him as a sympathetic character, though, is how similar he is to his main rival, Goku. Like Jiren, Goku's people were destroyed by a monster, Frieza. And if we're keeping count though, Goku's entire race got turned to dust and not just his village. Except Goku got to go on adventures with friends that didn't end in wildly depressing ways. Imagine a world where Goku didn't defeat Frieza in the end. One in which he couldn't save his friends from their fates. It's entirely possible that he could have ended up just like Jiren. That makes Jiren the Grey not only a powerful opponent for Goku, but also a dark mirror of what he could have been had life been crueler to him. Except it's doubtful that Goku would have ever worn a uniform so stupid looking. Nor would he ever wear one that had sleeves for that matter. Jiren's basically the red sun to Goku's Superman, the Owl Man to his Batman, basically any MCU villain that's more or less the hero but slightly different. And that covers about 90% of them. One of the biggest mysteries that Dragon Ball Super left open was the identity of Jiren's monster. You might be thinking that the answer isn't important, but teasing a mysterious evil without revealing it just isn't Dragon Ball's style. That would be like if all those references to Frieza ended with Captain Ginyu being the final boss of the Namek plotline. While the character is almost certainly someone we haven't met yet, that isn't stopping fans from wildly speculating as to who it could be. Let's run down the options. One of the most popular options is that the villain is none other than Goku Black. The main thought process around this thinking is that Goku Black had a very similar purple aura to Jiren's monster. It would also explain why Jiren fought against Goku so fiercely. He recognized him as an alternate version of his greatest enemy. While it may seem unlikely due to Black/Zamasu getting defeated in the previous arc, that doesn't mean they can't work around it. The entire arc revolved around time traveling and alternate timelines. It would be easy for them to figure out a way to bring the fan-favorite villain back. They managed to bring back Frieza twice, so this would be nothing. Another popular character fans think might be responsible won't be familiar with anime fans. In the manga's Galactic Patrol Prisoner saga, the main villain is a dastardly wizard named Moro. He's proven to be one of the franchise's most difficult enemies. He has the ability to negate Goku and Vegeta's Super Saiyan forms. Not only that, but he's one of the cruelest enemies the Z Fighters have ever gone against. The series has gotten a lot less gory since the Dragon Ball Z days, but Moro has certainly changed that. When he goes up against the Super Namekian, the wizard ends the fight by punching his hand right through the hero's abdomen. He's certainly the kind of villain who would have no problem destroying an entire village as part of a fun Sunday afternoon. Now that Dragon Ball Z super canonized Broly, pretty much all fan theories revolve around him now. Naturally, that means a lot of people think Broly might have been the one responsible for Jiren's pain. Apparently, this makes a little bit of sense. During his fight with Vegeta and Goku, it was clear that he outpowered the both of them by quite a bit. He also spent a great deal of his younger life as more or less a mindless rage machine. If he somehow ended up in Jiren's universe, it wouldn't take much to set him off. This could also explain Jiren's obsession with power. It would take a lifetime for any fighter to match the abilities of a legendary Super Saiyan. Judging from his fight with Goku, he may never make it to that level. The most likely theory points to Jiren's monster having a truly tragic identity: Jiren himself. Many think that Jiren went back in time to traumatize his younger version so that he would grow to his massively powerful future self. The cold and self-centered Jiren that we meet seems like the exact sort of person who would cause his own tragic origin. It also makes his life story all the more tragic by making him his own worst enemy. This is basically like if you found out that Batman was the one who mugged his own parents. The only character that could prove to be a more tragic reveal is that of Jiren's own mentor, Gichin. It's entirely possible that he destroyed Jiren's village to create his own pupil. That would mean that essentially the only being that Jiren ever truly cared for was a fraud. His entire purpose in the tournament was to bring his old master back to life. It would be fittingly tragic if his defeat at the hands of Jiren's monster was all a fake to further motivate Jiren to power. Regardless of who the villain ultimately is revealed as, the arc where Goku has to fight him is inevitable. So prepare yourselves for the day when Jiren, Goku, Vegeta, and the Pride Troopers go up against Jiren's ultimate enemy. If this character has to follow Beerus, Moro, and Jiren himself, you know he's gonna be one of Dragon Ball's best. Also, let's hope that Goku and Vegeta get to wear Pride Trooper uniforms, because that would be fantastic. You just know Goku would love it, and Vegeta would be oh so grumpy about it. It's unlikely that we've truly seen the end of Jiren, but so far he's had one of the most epic arcs in the series. So let's take a look at his arc so far and speculate about what his future might hold. Jiren's journey from orphan child to the most powerful warrior in the multiverse is a pretty legendary story. Back in their 90s heyday, Dragon Ball would have already produced at least one movie depicting his origin. They basically did a movie where they made Broly into the Swamp Thing, so I don't think that would be a stretch. Here's to hoping we never see Bio Broly in Super. Oh no. It would be interesting to see more of the kind of kid Jiren was like before his village was attacked. The latest Dragon Ball Super movie, Dragon Ball Super Broly, went into great detail about not only Broly's past, but also about Saiyan culture. Jiren is certainly a character deserving of such attention. Did he used to be more like Goku before his mentor's defeat? Was there ever a time where he truly bonded with any of his compatriots in the Pride Troopers? Also, what battles led him to become one of the most famous warriors in the multiverse? We've seen a lot of villain origin stories over the years, but we've never seen one that featured such a fall from grace. Compared to other Dragon Ball villains, he's by far the most sympathetic. Most bad guys that Goku and gang fight, from Emperor Pilaf to Planet Eater Moro, are usually evil incarnate. This brought us some of our favorite villains like Frieza, Cell, and Lord Piccolo. While those are certainly legendary villains, the best villains of the series are the ones capable of change. Piccolo Jr., Vegeta, and even Android 18 all started as antagonists, but are now part of the Z-Team. While Jiren probably won't get that far, his tragic past opens up more opportunities for the villain. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be a friend, though. There are many sympathetic villains out there that end up as evil as can be. Thanos is probably the most popular example today. It's entirely possible that Jiren could end up as the biggest villain the series has ever seen. He could continue his quest for the Super Dragon Balls. Like Infinity War, his journey to collect the all-powerful artifacts could turn into Dragon Ball's greatest arc yet. Time will tell how he takes his defeat at the hands of Goku, Frieza, and Android 17. He could learn from Goku's compassion or seek revenge over his defeat. Of course, he could do the Vegeta thing and become Goku's best frenemy. If Jiren's arch-nemesis ends up crossing universes to Universe 7, their team-up might be the greatest of all time. The Tournament of Power may have threatened universal destruction, but it didn't end up being so. How cool would it be if Jiren's monster set up some sort of Crisis on Infinite Earth style story? Wouldn't you love to see Jiren and Goku team up with all the other universes to fight an epic monster? Kale and Broly could even have a legendary Super Saiyan team-up. The Dragon Ball anime franchise has been alive and well since the 80s and will likely continue for decades to come. When it inevitably makes its way back to the small screen, Jiren may finally get the proper story he deserves. And there you have it, the sad story of Jiren the Grey. What do you think the future holds for Jiren and the Dragon Ball franchise? Do you think his story should be continued or that the series should just move on? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.